all the way to the state of Oregon for the Innovative Business Tax Credit Pass-Through with William Naismith and Andrew Laird. Thank you both.
Last year, the Doonesbury cartoon strip lampooned school financing in Oregon. Gary Trudeau missed the following storyline. Imagine you're a principal in a small elementary school in East Portland. You call your students and teachers together in the school's dimly lit, outdated cafeteria for a brief assembly right before lunch. You place your notes on the podium, you turn to the student at your right and ask her to turn on the lights. What she turns on is a flashlight that she points towards your notes. This, unfortunately, is a true story that reflects the dismal state of energy facilities in many Oregon schools. Oregon's Business Energy Tax Credit Pass-Through Option Program is changing this picture and shining lights on and in Oregon schools and public facilities. Oregon schools and thanks to a partnership with a private business, this Oregon school now has new energy-efficient lights in the cafeteria. A local business paid 25% of the lighting project cost and recovered its investment by claiming a tax credit on its state tax return. These partnerships are catching fire throughout the state. Schools, nonprofit organizations, and public agencies are getting energy-efficient lighting, new heating equipment, and initiating other energy projects that they couldn't otherwise do because they get a check from a private business, making the project more affordable. What's in it for the business pass-through partner? I brought my friend Andy Laird to tell you about it.
Good afternoon, everyone. I've been in the lighting business in Eugene, Oregon for more than 20 years. Having a viable, healthy community is very important to me as a small business owner. As a lighting contractor, this program provides more jobs for my employees and me. But more importantly, it helps nonprofits, schools, and public agencies go ahead with energy-saving projects that they wouldn't do otherwise. And it allows business owners like myself to help our community without making an outright cash donation that is difficult these days in Oregon's challenging economy. Let me explain how this works. I was asked to bid on a lighting project for the Relief Nursery, a nonprofit that provides preschool and parenting classes for low-income families at risk for abuse. A great organization doing good work in Eugene, Oregon, where I live. Their electricity bills and lighting maintenance costs were increasing dramatically over the past few years. They even had to close a classroom because they lacked funding. The lighting project would save them money every month because it cut their lighting load in half and would eliminate lighting maintenance costs for several years. In addition, it would make the place brighter, more pleasant, and easier to work. The stumbling block. The project cost $15,000. It's a lot of money for a nonprofit organization, but with the pass-through option, I was able to help the nursery stretch their project dollars. I was their pass-through partner and saved them just over $5,000 in project costs. In return, I received a tax credit of $5,250 to use dollar for dollar against my Oregon tax liability. It was simple, and I got to see a good organization put more of their money back into their core mission, kids and families in my community. That was important to me personally.
Andy's testimony helps explain how this program is working. Businesses see firsthand the benefit of helping nonprofit schools and public agencies in their communities. All of our pass-through projects have been successful in finding business partners. We've had 2 large companies take multiple projects, and we've had small business owners, like Andy Laird, take individual projects. We are proud of Oregon's pass-through option program and believe it has potential for replication elsewhere. Through 2003, 184 nonprofits, public entities, and schools invested $28 million in completed energy efficiency projects. These projects are saving 570 billion BTUs each year. That's enough to heat 8,000 homes in Oregon for a year. The pass-through option is gaining momentum. In the first quarter of 2004, we've already received 150 applications. We believe Oregon schools won't be in the dark or fodder for Doonesbury any longer, thanks to the pass-through option program and the public-private partnerships it is creating.
Thank you. Ed Dorn.
Mr. Laird, let me ask you for maybe a combination of business political judgment. Why is this approach better than the state of Oregon simply appropriating funds for energy conservation measures through the usual budgetary process?
That's a good question. The first thing that comes into my mind is that this program eliminates a lot of red tape. It's done with fewer people, and it's easy. And it actually puts the pass-through partners in your local community helping out local nonprofits. So it's a real good teamwork arrangement for the local communities and local business people to come together.
Also, in terms of government process, funding for energy facilities or for facilities in general is generally one of the very last things on the priority list for getting funding in a budget process.
Bill Klinger.
Yeah, I think it's a very exciting program. My question would be is, does this program in any way inhibit the private sector from undertaking energy projects, conservation projects on their own? I mean, this is a very simple deal. You write a check and that's it. But do you consider that that's your job's now done, that you don't have to really do anything on your own? Or is there anything that restricts you from doing that?
We've not seen that. The Business Energy Tax Credit Program still receives a very large volume of projects for private businesses for their own facilities. It just added this feature where they can also contribute to public sector projects in their communities as well. So we still see a large volume of projects for their own facilities.
To underlight that, because this is a question that we had, do the businesses that allow a nonprofit to use their tax credit or a portion of their tax credit, have they also taken steps to use the tax credit for themselves and become energy efficient?
Yes. They are continuing to use the credit for their own facilities, but now they are also using the credit in partnership with public facilities in their communities as well.
Yeah, Carl?
I'm still a little unclear how this works. In the case of Mr. Laird, you would normally be able to get a tax, you get the tax credit for your business and the school gets a reduced, has a reduced fee for the project?
Well, the way the process works is I actually write the school a check for the money, which they in turn sign off their tax credit back to me, the private person, and they use that money to help pay for the project. In my case, it was a teamwork of not only was I doing the lighting project, but I also received the tax credit. But it's being used throughout the communities from private investors to help out with the schools.
Do you make money? Do you make money on the transaction?
He does the project.
We have what is the net present value of the return? Or
The answer is no. The tax credit, the way the credit is set up, the private business does not make money on the transaction.
Can I just get it straight? It costs $15,000, right? Let's say. You give them $5,000 and you get a $5,000 tax credit.
right.
So you say the $5,000, it's nothing for you. It's $5,000 to the government or $5,000 to the school.
And you get the business.
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. No, that's
Your
just
case.
a coincidence.
Yeah, your
That's
case.
just a coincidence.
This particular instance, it all came together just right.
Right, but
All the planets
normally
were
a
aligned.
business gets.
But the banks are doing this.
Normally, the business says, I'll pay it for my local school rather than directly to the, rather than pay my taxes to the government.
I guess the question to me is, does the state of Oregon end up paying more, or does it cost more for the state of Oregon to use a not-for-profit pass-through than it would if a business just applied normally for a tax credit and got it for an energy-saving program?
No, it's the same. It's a wash.
Help me weigh this question, and I'll leave you with this because time is up for that. To give you an award is essentially to tell the state of Oregon, we're saluting you for your pioneer effort because you're doing through the back door what your legislature won't do through the front door. Is that where we are?
I don't think I would look at it that way. I think it's a great, it's a tool, it's a mechanism to create public-private partnerships. You're also telling the state you're creating a mechanism to get businesses to invest in activities in their community, to help their schools and their nonprofits, to use their tax liability to benefit the public entities in their communities. I think that's as much a part of it as pointing at the state and saying you're not budget. It's not just the state; it's the schools, it's the universities, it's all the public entities, the nonprofits. It's all of that community. It's anybody that doesn't have tax liability. I think that's the whole picture.
Susan, did you have a comment or a question?
Well, this is sort of a follow-on, and it's perhaps unfair to ask this question of you, but do you know the extent to which some of the relationships that are created by virtue of this pass-through, this sort of tax-generated relationship, how many of those are sustained? Meaning between, have you had continuing relationships with the program that you initially got involved with because of the tax credit? Ongoing relationships between the private entity that is getting the tax credit and the public or nonprofit entity that is benefiting from the energy efficient construction.
We're still building the program, but I'll give you two examples. U.S. Bank has 3 years running now. They have said we will do this. They've done 3 large portfolios of projects, and Nike has said 3 years in a row we will do $1 million a year with schools, K through 12 schools. We want to support this kind of activity.
And those are your biggest. Those are your
Those are
two
big
biggest.
ones. We have